may recall, my research mainly revolves around understanding the test anxiety and the relationship between test anxiety and academic achievement, particularly focusing on any nonlinearity. The plan was to start with a systematic review, but we hit a barrier as we couldn't find enough articles in this field. So we disregard to doing a systematic review in favor of having a more comprehensive analysis by adding 2 more analyses in a study 1. So I'm gonna start with the idea came from. I need to mention that traditionally researchers believe that there is a linear as well as negative relationship between test anxiety and academic achievement. However, the relationship between these variables is not that linear as we thought. According to the Milestone, there is an optimal level of arousal for maximum performance, which means by increasing the level of arousal, performance increases, but up to a certain point. At that point, when arousal becomes more excessive, performance decreases. This idea has been supported by a few recent articles in the field of education and psychology. However, this idea is supported many times in the field of athletics population. So, my main question was, is there any nonlinear relationship between test anxiety and academic achievement? Or is there any specific threshold at that point when anxiety excessive performance decreases? And is it in this pattern, does this nonlinear relationship between these variables vary among individuals based on unique characteristics such as ages or gender? You might ask why the answer of this question is that important, or what are the implications of this study? First of all, recognizing this positive connection may assist educators to identify a student who might perform better by a certain level of anxiety. And the second implication would be evaluating teaching strategies and teaching methods by creating creative ways in favor of more engagement. And finally, a school might rethink about their assessment practices. If there is an optimal or positive level of anxiety, they might induce circumstances in favor of optimal performance by inducing some level of anxiety. So my research was designed according to Zadeh. In study 1, I'm going to investigate the nonlinear relationship between test anxiety and academic achievement in a cross-sectional study. And I'm going to use 3 different databases, which I'm going to explain what is the rationale behind of using these databases. And in study 2, I will investigate this non-linear relationship between math anxiety and math achievement. And as I'm going to use pharma data, is a longitudinal study which evaluated students during 5 years. So I'm going to take a look at if there is a non-linearity, is it constant during overtime, considering individual characteristics or not? So I use 3 different databases to answer my question in study 1, as one of them provide me unique characteristics that help me to have a comprehensive analysis. In piece of 15, I'm going to investigate the relationship between test anxiety and academic achievement. Using 12, I'm going to investigate math anxiety and math achievement. According to the literature, it has supported that when it comes to doing difficult assignments like mathematics, the relationship between these variables tend to be more curvilinear. So I'm going to answer this question. Is it when it comes to the difficult assignment, it's going to be more linear or more curvilinear? So another reason is that, interestingly, in SS19, the performance was assessed according to different reports, school reports and teacher reports. So this enhanced the validity of my data. And using these three databases from different countries, different cultures, enhance the generalizability of the results. So hopefully I use same method of analysis for analyzing all of them. Basically, I use multi-level model regression. I estimate multi-level students level 1, school level 2, and countries level 3. And to control the clustering of students within schools within countries, I use random intercepts for schools and countries. In addition, the nonlinear relationship between variables was assessed according to the quadratic. And I also, to evaluate the generalizability of the pattern, I included random swaps for both linear and nonlinear. And in terms of gender, I put a 0 for girl and 1 for boys. So, first I'm gonna present the report of PISA 15, which is mainly about test anxiety and academic achievement. According to the table 1, you can see the correlation between variables, key variables. Here, the correlation between test anxiety and performance is minus 0.14. And is negative, so which means by increasing the level of anxiety, performance decreases. And social economic status and performance had a positive correlation, which means students by higher SCSS, they have better performance. And boys compared to the girls, they feel less anxiety and they have worse performance. So by table 2, you may notice that the effect of test anxiety in both linear model and nonlinear model. For both model, linear and nonlinear, the effect of test anxiety is minus 0.03. And for the nonlinear or quadratic one, is pretty smaller. And generally, the random effects are much smaller than fixed effects. So when it comes to the regression studies, the importance of using graph is really important. You might notice that in quadratic terms it's significant, but if we use the graph, we might notice that there isn't any nonlinearity between test anxiety and academic achievement. As you can see, the slopes follow a direct direction. So to the generalizability of the results, I used the separate predictive effect of these variables among different countries. For both test anxiety, linear and quadratic ones, the range of variance is not that big, it's pretty small and negative. So, as I mentioned before, in PISA 12, I'm going to focus on the domain specific of anxiety, test mathematics anxiety, and we're going to figure out when it comes to doing difficult things, the relationship, how be different. So, by this coloration table, you might notice that the correlation between mass anxiety and mass performance is minus 0.36. compared to the test anxiety, the correlation is more stronger, 3 times. And same, again, students who might have more social economic status, they have better performance and boys feel less anxiety compared to the girls and have worse performance. Both linear model and non-linear model. Effect for both linear and non-linear is negative. And for quadratic one, it's pretty small. And here you can see, according to this graph, the relationship between non-linear relationship between mass anxiety and mass performance. And again, the separate predictive effect of mass anxiety and mass performance across 67 countries, both weird and non-weird countries, is pretty small, which is a good support for generalizability of the results. So, as I mentioned, in SES19, performance was assessed according to reports, school reports, and teacher reports. So I had different assessments for performance. So as we can see, the correlation between test anxiety and academic achievement here is pretty smaller compared to the mathematics one. And then similar to the previous one, boys feel less stress and more performance to the girls. And again, the effect of test anxiety is -0.03 for both linear and non-linear one, which means by increasing the level of anxiety, performance decreases. And for quadratic one, it's pretty small. And random effects is pretty small compared to the fixed effects. Here, this table is based on teacher reports. We can notice that there isn't too much difference between previous one school reports. Follow the same pattern. And here we can compare two graphs, the result based on teacher reports and school reports. As you may notice that the non-linear relationship between variables is not that non-linear, it follows the linear pattern. So again, the range for both linear and quadratic one is not that big, it's pretty small and negative. Although for linear one is not negative, but still pretty small. So it's a good support for generalizability of the results. So I had two main goals for doing this study. First of all, I'm going to investigate, is there any non-linear relationship between variables, test anxiety, and academic achievement? And is it generalizable across different countries or not? According to the results, we found out the relationship between test anxiety and academic achievement is totally negative, and it follows a linear pattern, which means by increasing the level of anxiety, performance decreases. And all three analyses consistently revealed that a positive relationship between socioeconomic status and performance, higher SES levels were linked to the better performance. And additionally, the finding indicated that average boys feel less stressed and have worse performance. And in all of 3 databases, there is no nonlinear relationship between these variables. And we couldn't find any support for Yerkes taxon law. And this holds true for the relationship between math anxiety and math achievement as well. And moreover, these findings show that this relationship is consistent across different countries, both weird and non-weird ones. So for next step, I'm going to investigate the nonlinear relationship between math anxiety and math achievement as I'm using plasma data. And I will figure out if this pattern hold true within the same individual over time or not. Thank you for your attention.
Let's see. Oh, how about open questions, sir? Anybody? Committee members or anybody?
What is your interpretation of your result? Why your hypothesis is not?
I think interpretation I'm going to add at the end of my PhD research. So here I just present the results. No interpretation for this now.
For me, I think you have to consider some third variables of effects, such as the value on the subject or previous analysis, something like this, because according to your record research, it showed that the correlation between anxiety and one rate is including some other variables, and that value correlations appear. So I think you have to consider.
Yeah. It means for predicting the level of the performance, we need to figure out the role of other factors. Anxiety is not that important, as the correlation wasn't that strong. For just mass anxiety, we found, yes, it's moderate. For the other ones, pretty tiny.
Belginda?
Hi, Mona. Thank you for that. That was a very nice presentation. Your results are really interesting. I'm wondering if you are able to remind us or provide a rationale for why you chose to use the quadratic term to test your predictions. According to the Yerkes taxon, it says that there is a curvilinear pattern between these variables. So we use quadratic terms to figure out if it follow a curvilinear pattern or non-linear pattern. We could find out if there is a non-linear pattern, so we might as okay by increasing the level of anxiety performance increases. And according to the one study that I found in the literature, it says by using more quadratic like 2 or 3, this relationship tends to be more curvilinear. But in the analysis that we had by using 3, we couldn't find any nonlinearity as well. Okay, yeah, I was wondering if there were other potential nonlinear patterns that could be explored, given that you have an impressive amount of data to do those kinds of tests. Sorry, I didn't notice that. Would you repeat that again? I wondered if there were potentially other nonlinear sorts of effects, not just the quadratic one. And then I understand that in the final phase of your study, you'll be looking at within person. Would it be possible that maybe for some people the quadratic term might actually make sense, but for others, perhaps some other nonlinear pattern might make more sense? Yeah. So we're gonna investigate this idea by study 2. Is by using polymer data. Is a longitudinal study which evaluates incidence during 5 years. So we can take a look at if any specific characteristics or individual characteristics might affect in this relationship or not.
Thank you.
A minor point, it doesn't make any difference in relation to the results that you found, but the peroxydoxin predicts more than just a quadratic relationship. It's a specific form of quadratic relationship. So it's U-shaped, and and the direction changes somewhere within the observed area. And so probably you need to make your predictions a little more specific in relation to that. And then, because there is no hint of nonlinearity, it's sort of irrelevant in terms of the actual interpretation of the result, but it would probably be good. The other point is that for your study 2, the major focus is not the within study. The major focus is the longitudinal study. And so I would present the study 2 as a longitudinal perspective juxtaposing a within and a between person perspective. It's not just the within person perspective, it's the longitudinal pattern of relationship.
Yeah.
I also read the longitudinal study, so it might give you more information about the relationship between the angelic and treatment. And one of my question is, anxiety, you are interested in is trait or state. I think these two are very different.
Yeah. In this study, we focus on state anxiety, which is totally related to the situation that you might feel more anxiety when you put it in a very stressful situation. And we ignore the trait anxiety because it's more related to your personality. And we hadn't any assessment to, analyze the personality traits.
Data really measure state anxiety.
Yes.
So if I just think trait anxiety might be non-linear. Linear. Yeah. As you demonstrate for state, it's more like I think show the this possible show some the other pattern. It's like at this moment, that's the thing. At this moment, you might.
No. Our focus was on state anxiety, not trait. Our focus on this study was just focus on state anxiety. State 1. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
According, it's really correlated with your situation.
Yeah.
If somebody put you in a very stressful situation, you might feel anxiety. So, which called a trait anxiety. But trait anxiety, when you normally feel anxiety or anxious without any specific situation, which means genetically you might feel more anxious or anxiety, or you might have a neurotic characteristics. So we disregard trait 1 and just focus on trait anxiety.
State anxiety is more like feel at this moment.
Yeah,
So
correct.
with that, probably you feel something anxious at this moment.
Yeah.
I think that might give some arousal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
correct.
if you consider some some more you don't also measurement is actually if you don't measure correctly the state anxiety, then probably it will be difficult to show some non-linear relations. The state, how to measure the state?
Oh, okay, I got it. When it comes to the test anxiety, which is more based on a specifically situation. So test anxiety naturally is a state anxiety, not trait 1. If we're gonna investigate trait anxiety, we need to use different question. So when it comes to the mass anxiety or test anxiety, is just about a state because it's correlated mainly about the situation, academic situation.
Say that math anxiety, to be specific, not state specific.
Yeah, right.
I would say that math anxiety is a trait. Test anxiety is a little more tricky. But if in general you're anxious about tests, that would surely be trait. And if you're anxious about a specific test, that you're about to take or something like that, maybe that would be state. But the ability to differentiate between state and trait is very complex and not well understood, and particularly with the big secondary databases that you're looking at. I would suspect that everything that you're looking at is straight. And whether or not that's an important distinction, you're not sure. But I think that you're looking primarily at trait. And I think that even in study 2, where there's some attempt to try and separate those, it's mostly trait.
It's hard to it's very hard to have a pure state measure.
Yeah.
So you need to test the anxiety during the having a test. So that's
It's very easy. It's not feasible.
Experiments.
yeah,
Yes.
so you need to have a pure state measure.
Yeah, but you have to have something that is anxiety provoking. And an experiment might not be able to do that if the states aren't high enough.
Yeah.
This is mid-Candidature, so you're halfway through. I was kind of looking forward to have you look forward. Okay, we got study 1 under your belt. What about study 2, study 3? Could you tell us about that? Look forward to your next 2 projects.
Are you asking about a study 3?
Yes, and so
No studies.
We don't have any study 3.
could you look forward? You're halfway. What's the second half like?
For the second half, I'm gonna focus on Palma data, and it's a longitudinal study. So I'm gonna figure out according to the individual characteristics. Is there any nonlinear relationship between variables? I think at this data, as we're gonna follow students during 5 years, we're gonna might consider the, I don't know, trait anxiety as well. So it's not just about specific anxiety. So yeah.
Yes, anybody online? Thank you. We have time for another question if somebody would like to ask it.
Can you just talk quickly about the causal? Why do you think it's anxiety causes performance going on?
There is a different perspective that supports this idea. One of the famous says, okay, anxiety may affect on your short memory and can distract you to analyze the data. As we know anxiety have 5 dimensions, like physical dimension that I'm feeling now, like your heartbeat, and you may feel anxious in your body, and you might have some worry in your mind, and you might have evaluate your performance during time. If I'm gonna doing great, so keep going. If I'm gonna do worse, so I might feel more anxiety, and it can disturb my focus, my work memory. So one of the famous one is cognitive behavioral theory, or Lazarus said the choose assessment, secondary and first assessment, which is mainly about worry that you might think about your mind and evaluate your performance.
But the whole purpose of study 2 is to evaluate that issue. That's what you're going to, well, that's what study 2 does. It looks at the causal ordering and to test whether that is. The theoretical basis for it is clear. the empirical basis for it is not very good. And particularly in relation to the nonlinear component.
In nonlinear disposal, reason was anxiety or arousal can enhance your performance by increase the level of consciousness and make you more motivated.
But if you were worried about how you were going to perform.
Yeah.
And also, like it's
Yeah,
at
exactly.
least reciprocal, yeah, it's some.
Interestingly, in the field of athletes population, I found that many articles that support this idea. Maybe for athletes person, increased arousal can enhance performance. But when it comes to the educational field, it's totally negative, serving element for performance.
All right, thanks very much, everybody online and here as well. I just asked Virginia, can you stay online, and I'll get the panel supervisory team to convene in the boardroom. But can you please give another round of applause for Mona? Thank you very much. And remember, all staff meeting at 12. Thank you.